Welcome to SA Wellcast, the podcast where we explore the many facets of health and well-being. This podcast is brought to you by St. Alphonsus Corporate Health and Wellbeing and a generous grant from the St. Alphonsus Foundation. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our St. Alphonsus Wellcast. This podcast is brought to you by St. Alphonsus Corporate Health and Wellbeing Department. I am Amy. I'm a registered dietitian. We've got our very own Candi Zappia. And today we are going to talk to you guys about winter blues. And we have our very own nurse practitioner, Kim Kleaveland. So, Kim, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. Go for it.
Thanks for having me, Amy. I'm so excited to be on our Wellcast.
Yes.
My name's Kim Kleaveland. I'm a nurse practitioner here at the Corporate Health and Wellbeing Department at St. Alphonsus. My background is I've sort of lived everywhere in the northern hemisphere of the United States, so this is a topic near and dear to my heart.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes northern Maine, where I lived for a few years, feels a lot like the Arctic Circle, and those days sure are short there. And then I spent a little bit of time in Bend, Oregon. All of my background as far as practicing in medicine is in family practice. And then I just took this position at Corporate Health to kind of do some more education and to talk about some of these awesome topics with people last year. And it's been really fun to be part of the team. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we love having her. She's been a great addition. Okay, so let's get into it. What are winter blues and how do they even happen?
Well, the topic probably sounds pretty familiar.
Yeah, a little bit.
How's the weather out there today, by the way?
It's a little bluesy, I'd say.
Yeah,
a little gray.
A little gray. Do you know what the high temperature is?
Yes.
I don't.
It's like 37 today, I think.
37 degrees here
Is
in
it?
Boise, Idaho.
Yeah.
The first real
Yeah.
day of winter, I would say.
Oh, yeah. It's actually been kind of warm, right?
It
Yeah.
has been
Yeah.
unseasonably warm, which is great. And then my kids this morning were trying to get me to let them wear snow pants. And I'm like, there has to be snow.
Well, it's better than my daughter who wanted me to ride her to school on the bike. And I said, 30 degrees is a little bit too cold for that.
Too cold, too cold.
So the winter blues are sort of that, right? Just feeling like we're not in the brightest state that we are in other parts of the year. Luckily here in Idaho, we have 300 some days of sun per year. We're super used to that kind of environment. It's actually really good for our body. And when we hit the winter months and those days are shorter and we have less light exposure during the day, we're sort of stuck sometimes in this feeling of the blues. So the blues are when you feel maybe a little more sleepy, lower energy, a little less social, or some kind of mix of both. There are some people who just love winter. Some people love that sledding, the skiing, just
Not
the
this
cold
girl.
temperatures.
I don't think anybody really here. Maybe.
I do love my winter sports,
Yes.
but it definitely is not part of our everyday life to be participating in those kinds of fun activities. Most of us are going to work when it's dark and coming home when it's dark.
Right.
And that definitely affects the way that we're interacting with the world.
Yeah, it's getting, every year it really surprises me how soon the sun goes down. And by the time it's like 7 o'clock and the sun's been down for maybe like an hour and a half, I'm like, okay, it's time for bed, right?
Right.
Definitely.
And us here in Idaho, we get kind of spoiled because in the summertime, our days are so long. Like the sun doesn't even start to set, or like the sky is still blue until like 10 p.m. at night. So to go from that and having these long, wonderful days to these short, dark, drudgy days, it can really be an adjustment. It can really be. I feel it. I definitely feel it every time.
I didn't even think about the extremes there. Yeah. Yeah,
So
crazy.
interestingly, some of the countries that we'll talk about a little bit during this Wellcast, like Norway and other Northern European countries, have an even bigger difference. So their summer days can be 20 hours per day of light.
Oh my goodness.
And then
yeah.
their winter days go down to 6 hours of light. So you can imagine a 14-hour difference. They have the winter blues sort of mastered and have some tips that we can draw from to really improve our mood state during these winter months.
Awesome. So we kind of talked about it, but tell me a little bit more about the people who are more at risk for experiencing this.
If you've experienced it before, you're probably going to experience it again.
Okay.
So people going through times of adjustment in their life, if your year looks a little bit different this year than last year, you may be more at risk for the winter blues. So maybe you have a new child, or you're empty nesting, or you've had a job change. Something that's taking adjustment in other areas of your life can put you at risk for the winter blues. Also, if you've had some sort of traumatic event that's happened around the holidays or in the wintertime, you can kind of become triggered by this time of year in and of itself. And the holidays can be really hard on people for a lot of reasons. It's supposed to be a jolly time of year, but there's always mixed emotions and family dynamics and personal concerns and financial concerns and all of it. So,
and I find myself having that really important conversation with a lot of my clients that, we regard this time of year as very jolly and loving, but things still happen. Things, and not always the jolly, happy things. And it's important to be aware of that.
Definitely. And then, of course, anyone who suffers from a mental illness of any other kind or has a history of a mental illness, including anxiety or depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, anything, you just are more at risk for being affected by these changes in light status as well.
Got it. Okay, so what are the symptoms and how can we tell our listeners to recognize it? Or what are some tips for recognizing that we might be experiencing some winter blues?
Yeah, definitely. So you may feel sleepy, lower energy, a little blue, or less social. Those are all kind of the hallmarks of the winter blues. Some people are going to feel even more extremes on this spectrum. So maybe feelings of anxiety or depression. Maybe you're feeling like it's harder to get up in the morning to the point where you're pressing snooze on your alarm 5 or 6 times, or you're having a hard time getting out the door for work, your appetite's affected, or you're just feeling impairment in some area of your life, whether it's social functioning, work functioning, or just not enjoying the things you like to do. Those things aren't the winter blues. That's something probably a little more serious and in the realm of what we call seasonal affective disorder. If you feel like you're not just feeling a little blue, a little sleepy, a little less social, and you're truly having impairment in one or more areas of your life, those are reasons to talk to your primary care provider and get help. There are lots of options. There's medications that can be taken seasonally. Light boxes have been shown to be effective in people. There's lots of treatments, counseling, and working through some of those issues or traumas that you've had in the winter months to help you cope during this time of year can be super important. So being sure that you're being honest with yourself and taking an inventory about the degree of impairment that you're suffering from, so that if you are beyond the winter blues and into seasonal affective disorder, that you can get the help you need.
Yeah, that's great. Right. I actually, when I was working in the hospital inpatient, I had a coworker who had there were no windows in his office. And so we had, what did you call it? A light box?
Light box.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it almost looked blue. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it really helped him. He said when he first got into that office, he was kind of just like down in the dumps, and he was a little bit more prone to depressive symptoms, and it really helped. So that's a great tip.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've talked about what it is, how we can identify it. Let's get some treatments shouted out there. What are some remedies for the winter blues?
Yeah. So just to give you a little more background about why this is happening, we've talked a lot about light status and things like that. But have you ever heard of your circadian rhythm? Is that a
yes?
Yes.
Yeah. So interestingly, your circadian rhythm is sort of like your biological pacemaker. It goes down to the cellular level. So every single cell in your body is affected by light. And when you're not getting the light during specific times during the day, and not just artificial light, but natural light during certain times of the day, your body is affected. It affects your brain state, the levels of certain hormones in your body, your energy level, your hunger, or your sleep. So maybe you've noticed sometimes, do you get hungry at the same time every day?
Pretty much. Yep, I'm pretty regular that way.
And how about sleep? Do you feel sleepy sometimes in the afternoon, or do you tend to go to bed around the same time every night or something like that? Does that seem to be something?
I definitely try to. I can't say that I do every time, but I think that I feel the onset of that sleepiness or that hunger it's at a pretty regular cadence, I'd say.
Yeah. And most people, I would say, give or take a couple of hours here and there in different realms will experience those. And that's all part of your circadian rhythm, and that's all dictated by light.
Right.
It's pretty incredible. So a lot of remedies for these winter blues are sort of centered around your circadian rhythm and improving and putting your body on that pacemaker to kind of move you forward. So the first thing I would say is recognize what's happening. So tip 1 is just kind of taking stock of where you're at and having an awareness about the fact that you feel different right now than you did in June, and that's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and like recognizing that, there is a light change. There's things we can do, there's things I can do, but I have to kind of stick this out until the light returns.
Yeah.
So different people are going to do this differently. Some people are going to be the journalers who get their feelings out on paper and recognize these, more obvious changes. And then some people are, just people who maybe don't have as much of an awareness, and their family members are the ones who are telling them, you seem a little blue, you seem a little less.
Yeah,
yourself.
Definitely. I've heard of that from my patients and my clients. People telling me that I've changed, or I'm interacting a little bit differently, and that can definitely be a huge tip.
Yeah. And then sort of on the realm of, accepting it, sort of embracing it can be great. So I don't know if have ever heard of the concept of hygge?
No.
Sometimes it's mispronounced as hygge, Hygge.
Okay.
It's a Scandinavian, Northern European concept of cozy. So,
that's cute.
Right? So, like, embracing this cozy aspect of this season and, recognizing things that make it really special. Like, it's a time where you can kind of inwardly retreat with your close loved ones, yourself, your family, your pets. And, sit in front of the fire, take the time and play a board game. Like, make yourself some hot cocoa and just enjoy. You know?
That kind of gave me chills just now. Like, putting it in that light and thinking about it like that. That was awesome. I always learn stuff from you, Kim.
Yeah, I mean, so one of my friends, actually, her husband is really great. Her birthday's in November, and her husband's really great at themed gifts. And last year he did a hygge themed birthday for her. So he got her like a fuzzy robe, some slippers. He got her some of her favorite teas, and like on her birthday had a fire set for her. And that's super dreamy, obviously, but I think we can all create that for ourselves,
Oh, totally.
That.
And in fact, just last night I finally got our fireplace turned on. We turned down the gas, but I just love that time of year. It's like a big official starting of the season, and that makes it kind of fun. And like you said, it's making the evening, you're embracing it. It's darker sooner, it's a little bit colder, so now we get to have that hot cocoa. We get to turn on the gas fireplace, and if it isn't cold where you live, but it might be dark, you can always go on YouTube. I have a smart TV, and I put up the fireplace crackling.
Yeah.
I love that thing.
And I love it. It's so cozy, or how do you say it?
Hygge.
I love that. And I really love, I love that we're doing a podcast on this topic, because I really think in order to bring awareness to this and to get people talking, we have to start having conversations about it, right? Not and normalizing it and letting everybody know that lots of people are going through this.
Yeah, it's supernatural. I think, in addition to embracing this cozy thing, we know that a lot of this is related to light and these photon receptors that are in your eyes that are bringing in all of this light into your body. And so recognizing the cozy aspects certain times of the day, but then embracing the light when we have it and getting ourselves outside can be really helpful. So obviously the weather's a little bit colder. 38 degrees is not exactly balmy, but getting as much sunlight as possible during those daylight hours keeps our circadian rhythm on track and can boost our mood. That sunlight and getting that sun on our skin when possible is also how our body manufactures vitamin D, which is an important vitamin playing a role in mood and in our immune system, which obviously is something we all worry about during the winter months.
Yes.
So if you can get outside any way you can, the best way is as soon as the sun has risen or as soon as you wake up, going outside without sunglasses on, exposing as much skin as you feel comfortable, and sort of just basking in the light that's there is a really important thing. Or if you prefer, you can just kind of take a walk on your break, eat your lunch outside if you're feeling brave, or find outdoor activities during your leisure time that you can do.
And how long would you say, minimum, someone should be outside for it to have a significant effect?
Yeah, I would say, so if you're looking at your circadian rhythm, at least 15 to 20 minutes is ideal, but any amount is better than no amount.
Okay.
And like I said before, your body responds differently to that natural light than it does from artificial light. So you may feel more awake by flipping your lights on, but it's truly better to go outside and get that natural light.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. That was awesome. Tons of great information. Any last thoughts that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would say as much as you can, this time of year, whether you're a healthcare worker or somebody who works in other areas, this tends to be a time where we take care of everybody else, right? Especially as parents, as adults, we're trying hard to, provide presents and joy and baking and, whatever your ritual is. But focusing in on yourself is not a selfish act. You're able to provide more for those around you when you are truly focusing on yourself. So getting lots of physical activity as much as you can, eating healthfully, getting lots of fruits, veggies, whole grains, and lighter foods, and doing as much as you can to manage your stress and have fun is all going to improve your mood state and improve the state of those around you. And of course, sharing this podcast with your friend or the information to those around you to sort of normalize the winter blues and to help everyone get through it is going to make us all more successful.
Absolutely.
Love it.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Kim, for coming and talking with us today. I'm sure we'll be having you back sometime soon.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Candi. And we will see you guys next time.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of SA Wellcast, brought to you by St. Alphonsus Corporate Health and Wellbeing and the St. Alphonsus Foundation. We hope you'll tune in again. Until then, be well.